Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live. What's up, Kirk? You better believe it. Chatterbait trailers today, baby. We're going to break them down for you. Absolutely. What is going on, Broadsback Bass and Chris Bettinger? How you doing, buddy? Lane Graves. Good to see you, Lane. Robert Murray. I said Murray. Check it. Fact check me. That's right, buddy. I got you, man. Scott Chope's in the house. Robert. Yeah. That's right, brother. Lime Green, Fishing Machine, Johnny Kopp, Conway, what do you say, buddy? Paul, how are you? Jeffrey Riddle, good to see you, Jeffrey. Blowtorch, yeah, thaw everything out. You're right, buddy. Jim Saban's here, Warren Guttrell. Matthew Weimer, how you doing, Matthew? Good to see you, buddy. Tim McSee's here. Joseph Cascarino, how are you, buddy? Ed Ranowski, hi, Ed. Man, we got a good bunch of guys here tonight. Alvin's here, Ray Cruz, Mike Barr. How are you, Mike? Did you break that rod in yet? I don't know. Yeah, David Schottelmeyer. Yeah, Michael Bradley. Good evening, everybody. Kyle Riggle, how you doing, buddy? Alvin Valentine. Yeah, I tell you what, everybody's checking in tonight. Good to see everybody. Mike Hayer, how you doing? Andre, what's up, buddy? How you doing, pal? Man, I tell you, what a day. What a day. Last couple days here have been really nice, Nick. Man, the weather's been good.
Well, you were talking about thawing out. Have you thawed out? Because you were cold there for a while.
I was chilled to the bone. I was standing outside. It went up to like 45 or something. And I went outside and stood in the sun, and it got right to me, man. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm ready.
You're starting to feel it again.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. George was talking to me today. It's supposed to be in the 40s over the weekend. I think most of the ice is off the river.
Sounds like fishing time.
I think we could dunk a boat.
Hey,
we're going to look at it. We're definitely going to look at it, see what we can do for sure. John Warwick, how you doing, man? Tim H, what's happening? Yeah, Todd Blankenship's here. Mel, how you doing, pal? Good to see you. Man, we got a big old show for you tonight. We are going to break down Chatterbait trailers. Man, what a category, huh, Nick? Where do you go? So many of them,
I'm telling you.
So we're going to try to break that down for you and talk about the different styles and what's out there and see what happens with that.
So I do have a question for you and George while we're here. So everything's thawing out a little bit, and you're talking about the ice getting off the river. So you launch your boat, you get to whatever your favorite spot is. What is the first bait you're throwing this for the first cast in the new year?
Man. Well, for me, it's either going to be a Ned rig or a Kitech Swing Impact.
Nice.
And if I know George, he'll be busting out the old Silver Buddy. If I know him.
Well, if we go this weekend, considering there's going to be ice chunks floating past the boat, I will definitely be fishing a blade bait, and it will be an old school Silver Buddy.
Yeah,
I like it.
I kind of think it.
And, I mean, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Maybe a hair jig.
Yeah, maybe a hair jig. Little Ned.
We have no warm up yet.
Yeah.
It's
cold. It's cold out there, but they got to eat, Nick.
It's getting there.
They got to eat.
It's getting there.
I like your guys' picks. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine what you're going to catch your first fish on for the year.
You know what I was thinking, though? When it was real super cold, I was talking to a guy, and he was throwing a micro jig with a little Ned rig trailer on the back, and they smoked them. It's almost like a buggy looking thing, because what happens this time of year is those little stoneflies start coming off.
Caddis.
Huh?
Caddis.
Yeah, caddis flies, some little sucker, the little black things that crawl in your ears and get all over your boat and everything when it starts warming up. So, something small like that, or like a little black Ned rig, like a yoga pants, TRD, is really a good. And then a hair jig, a hair jig really becomes really good when you get those warm banks, the sun's beating on them and those little flies are coming off, and you catch a fish and you look in their mouth and you got all these black spots in their mouth. They're eating those bugs like crazy. So
what you're telling me is, if you were going to go out this weekend, you wouldn't be in a hurry necessarily to be on the water.
No. We can do what we call the slow roll. And I don't mean that. I don't even mean using a spinnerbait. That's slow rolling out of the bed. Yeah, we'll slow roll out of the bed. But listen, for all you guys checking in, we appreciate you. My name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord. And behind the camera is cameraman Nick. We are Tackle Shop Live. We come at you every Thursday at 7 o'clock. And we talk tackle, we talk fishing, we talk technique, and we talk some tournaments. And we just like to talk. So we have a good old time. But man, we got a lot of stuff coming up for you guys. Next weekend, February the 8th, we have our annual Smallmouth Saturday event, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger event every year. I got the bigger tent this time because last year we filled it up. We have some great seminars going on, all smallmouth talk, all smallmouth chitter chatter going on in the shop. But what's really cool about it is we have some great speakers. We have Tom Mills. Tom Mills is a local angler stud who's been, and a great outdoorsman. He's going to be doing some seminars for us. And Tom is a real technical fisherman, very smart guy when it comes to fishing all kinds of river current and stuff like that. So he's going to talk about that and have some great seminars and information for you. Our own George Acord is going to be doing a seminar for us. And George he always does a great seminar. So he's going to do one on some different stuff. So you're going to get a pretty good range between Tom and George right there, getting some really good ones. And then we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a smallmouth panel. And we're going to bring, Tom and George back up. And we're also going to add in Joe Raymond, who's a local guide, hardcore guide. And who else? We might be able to get Jason Shea to come up there and sit in the panel also, who is also a leading guide in the area. And you guys who come here, you can ask questions. You can get your questions answered. We're not going to try to throw something down your throat. We're going to listen to you guys, and we're going to have you guys tell us what you want to hear, and then we're going to answer those questions. So that's going to be a fun little segment, I think, something a little different that we wanted to try. But also we're going to have a great sale here. We're going to have a bunch of products on sale. We got a lot of new stuff came in. So you're going to see some new stuff in the shop and take advantage of some great sale pricing for that. So it's going to be a great day. And then also walking around, we're going to have a bunch of area guides and experts that can talk fishing to you guys, and they're going to be in here. We got Anthony Cicero going to be here. Like I said, Jason Shea, Matt Green. These are all guys who spend countless hours fishing for smallmouth and can maybe help you sort out some of this stuff in the shop here and some of your questions also. So it's a great day. It's a great event. We're Smallmouth Junkies here, so we are going to get you guys your questions answered and hopefully help you catch more fish. That's what we're all about. So we got that going on. And then Nick, after that, March 14th and 15th is our big annual cabin fever sale. And that's been going on since we opened the shop back in 1989. We've been having this sale in March, and it's our biggie. And, it's fun.
I always loved the name of the cabin fever sale because that's exactly what it is.
Guaranteed.
I mean, we got to get going, we got to get moving, and we got the cabin fever. We're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our cleanup sale for the year, the biggest sale of the year, and it is a really a good time. And of course, all of our sale events, we have food trucks here, and we have just a heated tent to do the seminars in. It's just a really good time. So mark your calendars for those dates and make sure you get there for those for sure. George, I got a little something for you.
Bring it.
I got some trivia for you boys. A couple trivia questions for you boys. We haven't done trivia for a while.
I like to know who you called to get that idea because that is a fabulous freaking idea.
Every now and then we bust out and put some trivia out there, and I haven't been doing a good job, coming up with some questions. I know I was going to make it a segment, but we just, we roll.
You can't really do trivia as a segment because
Yeah.
then you become that guy that goes to the bar every Tuesday night and does trivia. And to be honest with you, that gets a little sad after a while.
So, throwing it in there every now and then, nothing wrong with a little trivia. But I got a couple questions for you. And the first question is about the lateral line on a largemouth bass. What is it? What do they use that lateral line for?
So you're going with a biological trivia here.
Well, it might be some biological, it might be some chemical. I don't know, a little bit of everything.
Oh, so this is a scientific based trivia. I didn't know there was going to be a test. But since you brought it up,
So what is the lateral line on a bass?
I'm gonna let cameraman.
See, now he did exactly what I was going to do.
I know the answer.
I was giving it to you. You're
I'll drop the knowledge.
give it to him.
I'll drop the knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously the equivalent of like a gang tattoo. Like, like I'm in the Western District, boys. We throw this down. And when you see that shit, you cross the street, right? I mean, that's where tattoos originated, on the lateral line of a bass. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good answer, but it's totally not right.
Oh.
But we got some smart people on our chat going on here, and a lot of them are totally 100% correct, and it's for feeling vibrations and feeling their prey and to track down prey, and they can use the lateral line to know what's going on around them.
It's an alert.
It's an alert for them.
I'm disappointed in my team member.
They can find a prey. So you guys are great. I love it. GPS for bass, exactly. They use it for feeding. They use it for a lot of things, and it's a sensory line. Yeah,
not
tattoo,
not gang tats.
No, not a gang tack. So
I thought maybe
good job on the
like
panel.
That one better, George.
Good job on the panel. You guys are a lot smarter than George
prison
and
tats.
Cameraman Nick. So
I knew it. I just
so
didn't want to say it.
good for
Nick,
you guys.
They could be prison tats because I locked a bunch of my live ones over here.
That's true. So what you're telling us is when we throw these noisy baits, we're trying to throw that lateral line for a little bit of a see if we can fool them.
Well, I mean, the vibration, that's why the spinner baits and the chatterbaits and all that stuff works, because it's the vibration, the rattle trap, all those baits that put off a certain style of vibration, the ribs on a worm, the waggle of a tail, and all that kind of good stuff.
Nice.
We're alerting. They're being alerted
to
our presence.
Yes.
Of our bait.
Yep. So here's another question for you, Nick. What is the oldest known fishing hook made from?
I know this one.
What is the oldest known fishing hook made from?
Oh, I'm going to say stone.
Stone?
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good answer. It's completely wrong, but it's a great answer.
He's not far off. It's actually from a meteorite. Very hard, very sharp, hard to work with. Now, back in those days, they didn't have the kind of tooling we have now, so it was a little harder to work with.
Yeah. See, look, these guys are so good that are on our panel, Nick. They are so good. The first couple guys, bam, bam, bam,
bone.
Made out of bone. Made out of bone is the oldest known fishing hook is made out of bone.
Boy, I'm impressed with those answers.
See, that's what you said. Oldest known. See, I go further back than that. See,
yeah, I mean, Nick and I took it to mean back in the pre-biblical era.
That's right.
Before before the main man was walking the earth.
All right. So here's a good one for you. What century did the fishing reel appear?
Oh, that's easy.
What
I can even
century?
I can even tell you who invented it.
Come on, Nick.
Yeah.
What century?
20th?
No.
No, I got an answer for this one. I'm going to tell you who invented it, what it was called, and when it came out. It was the Henschel 2000 from James Henschel.
Look, we got
father of the
18th
black
century.
bass. I'm talking here.
Okay. We got 18th and 19th century.
That narrows it down by
Some
I
more
like those
18th?
100-year gaps.
That's
there.
what it is. What century is what the question is.
I'm going for the date.
Oh, no. I would say 18th.
It was
18th
ICAST.
century.
Yeah,
It
I
was
would say
18th 1868.
Yeah.
It was James Henschel that invented it, and it was the Henschel 2500.
The thing is, what would be considered a reel, though, at that time? Because people were using a lot of different
Yo.
things as a reel.
I caught one out of the river this fall. Let me show it to you.
Well, the answer to the question is actually a lot of people are wrong on here. It's the 17th century.
Yeah. Like I
17th century.
Hold on, George.
George found one in the river. He
Caught that bad boy. That's the second one. His first prototype didn't work as well as this one.
That's not 17th.
I don't think
for
that's
sure.
17th century, but it's could be an 18th century.
Not bad, huh?
No.
Hook was hooked on it like that.
Ray Cruz, 17th century. Yep.
What's the odds of that?
Yeah, I would have went
AD
18th.
300. Ray Cruz said AD
I was wrong.
300. Yeah, 17th century for the first fishing reel to appear was the 17th century.
The reason I'm so shocked is James Henschel, the father of modern day bass fishing, wrote his book in the mid 1800s. I would have thought he would have been all over that.
Yeah. So, what is the most popular freshwater game fish in the U.S.?
Oh,
Popular freshwater game fish in the U.S.
that's a no brainer, bro.
Yeah.
Largemouth bass. Well, bass in general. Way more popular than like anything else.
What do you think, Nick?
I'm gonna go bass, but I know that's not right.
Oh, it is right. It's a largemouth bass.
Largemouth bass.
Largemouth bass is
Okay.
the most popular
Stick with me,
freshwater
Nick.
game fish in the U.S. Pretty
See,
neat.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. I'm glad to hear that.
And do you know what the weight of the largest world record largemouth bass is?
Well, it's actually somewhat disputable because if you go with the original recognized record, it's 21 pounds, 4 ounces. But that got beat like 5-6 years ago over in Japan on Biwa.
Mm-hmm.
But this crazy freaking rule they have is that you have to beat the record by a certain percentage. And that weight, even though it was a heavier fish, it wasn't enough heavier. It was only like 21.5 or 21.6. Mano Tanibo or Canibo.
So Charged Lightning has 20,
There's another guy, though.
22.8.
There's another guy though. If you read or if you follow Ken Duke, he just wrote an article on an undocumented Florida largemouth that was 29 pounds and change. And they have like the measurements, they have newspaper articles, they have everything, but it's not
So, George,
documented on a scale.
what's your final answer?
Well, it's 21.4.
It's 22.4.
Yeah, 22.4.
22.4.
You were pretty
Yep.
damn close.
Yep. 22.4. Larry, you got it right. Charged Lightning had 22.8, which was right,
They Googled
basically got it. Yep. So Kirk Blackador says 29 pounds, so he's talking about the one from Florida.
Put an asterisk on that, Kirk, because I'm with you, dog. That's the record.
Here's one. What about what is the world record sturgeon?
Oh, I got this all day long.
Feet or pounds?
Pounds.
Okay.
What is the world record sturgeon weight?
I'm going to say it's in the 400s.
400
You're not even
pounds.
close, dog.
No.
That's like average.
Well, I know they're long, but I didn't think they were that heavy.
Yeah, they're huge. They're giant.
I saw one on
They're like 13 feet
Twitter.
long, 1,000 pounds, and 300 years old.
I saw one on Twitter today try to eat a mermaid swimming in the water.
That'll happen.
1,100 pounds.
Oh, yeah, I was way off.
1,100 pounds.
They catch them in
Washington. Two more real quick.
They catch them in Washington.
Yeah.
And in the we almost got a trip in too.
Yeah, almost.
What's the name of that river? That's
Columbia River.
Columbia River. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Columbia River. Big time out there. Yeah, they catch some giants out there.
Yeah. And they're old.
Well, I seen one washed up on Ontario, and I didn't know what it was at first. It was on an island, one of the islands out there. And at first I'm like, there's dang sharks in this place.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
From far away.
I mean, they're bizarre looking too. They have like an exoskeleton. They remind me of the one tribe that Captain Kirk was warring with. That was like killing Vulcans and everything. I mean, these were some badass dudes.
Well,
they had them bumps on them.
But let me ask you a little trivia. With these fish, are they dangerous?
Well, like I said, I saw one. There's a lady swimming in a aquarium somewhere, and she was dressed like a mermaid, and this gigantic sturgeon came up and sucked her whole head in her mouth.
So they are dangerous, and here's why. They jump.
If I may. I have the floor.
I mean, you
can I have the floor?
Do we have a choice in this?
Well, I mean, I think this fits in dovetails nicely. I actually fished a tournament back in the early 90s on the Nanacoke River. And the Marshy Hope River enters the Nanacoke River, and the Marshy Hope River is pretty well fortified with sturgeon. And this gentleman from New York State was running up to Marshy Hope, and a sturgeon, when a sturgeon comes out of the water, they call that a breach. They just kind of like do that, The sturgeon breached just as he was hammered down going up the river.
Mm-hmm.
The sturgeon cleared the water enough that the boat went under it.
Oh yeah.
And it hit the pole seat like right here. And of course the sturgeon, he didn't wear out too good there. But he came back and hit the driver and broke his collarbone, broke ribs, broke his jaw. The boat went into a spin.
Man.
See, I knew this part.
Yeah.
I knew they're dangerous because they jump.
And I was in that tournament, and when we got back in, they're like,
watch out for the jumping sturgeon.
Well, they have most of them tagged there. To this day, that was in the mid-90s. To this day, they still study those sturgeon.
They're all protected.
There was another sturgeon that we ran into, and Mike was along on this trip, in the marina at Haverty Grace, Maryland, in the fall, and he was tangled in crab fishing gear. And he was towing crab traps with him, crab pots. And they're like, the watermen are trying to get this thing because it's a public black eye for them. There's like not that many sturgeon there. And here one of them suckers tied up in one of their crab traps, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry and their kids are seeing it.
I didn't even know they were down there.
Bloody murder. And here comes this sturgeon. Well, I'm not going to go into the pertinent details of the story, but let's just say we may or may not have encountered this sturgeon. And the sumbitch was towing a crab trap. So, yeah.
A little basket on
I'm
its
glad
basket.
you brought sturgeon up because it took me down memory lane there.
Yeah. Well, I was Potomac River back in the 1600s and 1700s was polluted with them, and it was the best fishery for sturgeon anywhere in the world, and they fished them all out, every single one of them.
Well, it's
Fished
a
all
little
of them
known
out.
fact that before George Washington crossed the Delaware, he was running long lines on the Potomac for sturgeon. I mean,
Welcome
that's
to the
well
History Channel here at Tackle Shop Live.
So the Potomac was world renowned for the sturgeon before they caught them all out and polluted the hell out of it. But anyway, here's another one for you, Nick. Who was the first woman to win the Bassmasters Classic?
None.
Well, I mean, I said the same thing. However, just because because I said woman, you're thinking in the regular Bassmaster Classic, but they used to have a women's Bassmaster Classic.
All right, I'm gonna name. I know the first name I'm gonna say. Is it Pam or
No.
Patty?
No,
Okay.
no,
Oh,
that's who I would have said.
Yeah,
Pam Wells.
Pam Wells. That's who I
what
would have
was gonna
said.
think.
Yeah. Yeah. When I say this name, you guys are going to go, oh, yeah. Kim Bain.
Kim Bain did the
Moore.
Bassmaster Classic at Pittsburgh. She was on.
Kim Bain Moore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's who. That
Andre's
was.
Moore wife.
She was the
Yep.
first woman to win the Bassmaster Classic, women's Classic.
She owned, her husband owned Reaction Innovations.
Australian.
She also fished in
New
the
Zealander, Australian, something like that.
Yeah,
Australian. She
Australian.
also fished in the
Opens.
regular Bassmasters Classic. 2004 to be specific, the year that Takahiro Omori won. She was in that field.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. You're exactly right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the last one, everybody should get. Who was the most successful bass fisherman in Bassmaster history?
Oh. Money wise or
Yeah.
Who's the most successful bass fisherman
See, I think of three.
in the Bassmasters history? Now everybody should get this.
See, I'm thinking of three anglers.
Yeah.
Because depending on what you think successful,
right. How do
there's
you
three
measure
different
success?
anglers. So here's my answer. Money wise, Kevin Van Dam. Bassmaster Classic wise, Kevin Van Dam and Rick Clunn. And Angler of the Year wise, Roland Martin.
That's really good, Nick.
That's good, Nick.
If I didn't know any better, I'd say you had an advanced copy of this test
I might have seen something before this. I'm just kidding.
because that was
I did
that
not.
was really good. Roll them off like that.
Well, from the Bassmasters archives and their rating system, KVD is
He's the one.
the one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For if I guess points wise and all the stuff they put together and
For
how
you guys personally on that
successful.
one, because I think that's a real interesting question.
That's a great question.
How did you always view that? Because when I look at the hardest part, they always said to win was Angler of the Year. And Roland Martin, I mean, nobody will ever beat what he did.
yeah.
But what do you guys look at it? Did you look at the classics? Did you look at Angler of the Year? Did you look at whatever?
It's kind of like a lot of sports. You have historic stats and current stats. Look at baseball with the changing of the equipment. Look at golf with the changing of the equipment. The modern stats in all these sports, including bass fishing, they don't necessarily jive with what Roland did. Now, I believe if Roland had in his era, if he had the technology and the products and the tackle that we had, I mean, he would have won every damn one of them because the skill set's a skill set.
Yeah.
And, if you come up with it, you know what I'm saying? So that's a great debate, but I don't think there's any way that you can debate Kevin Van Dam. I mean, he's the
GOAT.
He is the GOAT. I mean, he did it. He did it on multiple levels, from tournament wins to classics to AOYs to money.
Now, what would you guys say about this? Now, not Bassmasters, but Wheeler. Would you compare to that? What Wheeler's done?
Well, he's doing it. He's not at KVD's level yet as far as stats, but he's probably one of the best, greatest bass fishermen out there
Of the modern
era. But I mean, that's a great conversation because there's awesome arguments to be made, both ways. Like, for example, how many classics did Aaron Martins win?
0.
Correct. But is he not one of the very best to ever fish a tournament
Absolutely.
on numerous levels? He was pushing the curve on tackle, technology, concepts and theory. Guys like Wheeler developed a lot of their finesse game because of him. But he doesn't have the stats.
Right.
But that doesn't mean
He's a game changer.
look at every sport. Look at golf. Look at baseball. Look at football. There's people without the rings.
Like
There's
a Dan Marino.
People without the stats.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But when that guy walks into a room, you're like,
Yeah.
hey, son, let me tell you, that is the greatest
That guy right there.
quarterback
Respect. Yeah.
that ever lived.
That guy right there.
Yep.
That's the greatest bass fisherman that ever lived. And he never won the Classic. And he never, you know what I mean?
I'm really glad you brought him up because wasn't he the bridesmaid like 2 or 3 times in the Classic?
I know he was the bridesmaid on the Three Rivers.
And the thing is, when you walk into the shop here, and I love to look at everything, there's not too many people that had an impact on what we see all over the shop as he probably did.
A lot of influence
Yes.
from line to terminal tackle to baits to
Yeah.
colors
Mhm.
Yeah.
to rod design.
But then if you look at, KVD, the word, the
Absolutely.
name KVD, I mean, he's like 3/4 of the shop,
100%.
It's awesome.
he's got it covered.
Plus, he did that. He been there and he did that.
Yeah.
Mike, you killed it.
Great,
Good stuff.
great stuff. Mike.
All right. Well, let's get this show going. And we're going to start it off like we always do. And we are a tackle shop and we love talking about tackle. This is Tackle Talk. Yes. We are a tackle shop and we love playing with tackle and talking tackle. And this is not any different than any other show. George, what are we talking about today? What's hot? What's new in the world of tackle?
Well, it's been a busy week since we saw you guys last here at the shop. I mean, busy. I mean, we're loading web pages. We're emptying out trucks. I mean, we're processing. We're merchandise. It's a never-ending parade.
Yeah.
And every week we have like a sort of a theme of where we're going. This week we have just like organized chaos. We're across the board on baits. We got a nice reel for you guys, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No,
that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, somehow my mind when I'm bringing my thoughts to the table on this, and then Mike's hitting me with his thoughts on this, and then cameraman Nick's hitting me with his thoughts on this, my mind is kind of locked into the seasons. Like, we talked about seminars a while ago, and I'll be doing a seminar at Smallmouth Saturday, and I've done seminars for 30 years, hundreds of them. And one of my, I think, trademarks for my seminars is I like to follow the seasons, break down types of waters by the season. Well, that's kind of how we're going here for the most part. Now, there is a little bit of just straight craziness and chaos mixed in. But what I'd like to say is we're going to start off with some jigs because jigs are cool when it's cool. And I've got a finesse jig here I've been dying to tell you guys about. Back in the day, there was a shaky head, one of the original OG shaky heads. It was called a spot remover. It was made by a company called Buckeye Lures. And it had that perfectly flat stand-up head. I know you guys remember it. It had a lead, no weed guard, but it had a lead spike that came off of it. And you would push the worm down on a lead spike and Texas rig it. So take that head design, put a weed guard in place of that lead spike, tie a fine cut skirt. Now, it's very important that this is fine cut rubber. as opposed to a standard rubber. So let's look at that first.
You can see it just lays totally different.
Fine cut, standard. Okay. Thicker, standard rubber. This is silicone. I say rubber, it's silicone. Standard is a little thicker, a little wider. But when you get into these finesse jigs, what you really want to do is a fine cut. So we got a fine cut tied. We have that perfectly flat stand-up head. That's exactly what it's going to do on the bottom. It's going to stand up like that. Now, trailer-wise, most people are going to trim this with some sort of a crawl. But when it's cold, it's really hard to beat a TRD.
That's what I was talking about Nick right there. That finesse, micro finesse, or just finesse jig, with that little would you trim that skirt up a little bit, you think?
I would trim that skirt a little bit.
Yeah, I'd trim a little bit.
I would trim that skirt a little bit, and here's how I would do it. If you'd be kind enough to get me a scissors. So what I would do is what I like to do. Here's the best way to trim a skirt. Split that skirt. So, it's tied in the middle. So these are just strands that are tied. So split that skirt, get your top strands for the most part separated from your bottom strands. Okay. And what I like to do is put that jig head kind of right inside the crook of my finger there, maybe a half an inch, maybe a half inch. And then I'm just going to cut all that off. See where that thumb's holding that? That's kind of my cutting guide. Now I've shortened up those fibers. I've given them a little more stiffness to them, a little more action. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. It's a lot easier to do without your trailer on. But we can do this. Now you have a little more of a, and I kind of like that sort of cut like that. That bad boy's ready to go. So this is the Buckeye BFS. They had to throw that in there. Spot remover finesse jig. Comes in an 1/8, a 3/16 and a quarter. And that's a Mustad fine wire 2.0 black nickel hook. And just because that's fine wire, don't be thinking that joker's not tough, because that thing will handle a big fish. You do not want to fish this on a heavy rod. You're going to fish this on a medium powered rod, a medium light powered rod. And this is a finesse presentation. And that's the Buckeye BFS. Got to have that in there. Spot remover finesse jig. $4.99. Pretty reasonable price for a quality jig. 2.0 Mustad hook. Plenty of colors. That was peanut butter and jelly. They got all the special colors. They got, all the standards, and as well as some sort of cutting edge colors. There's probably, 8, 10 colors at least, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
But
beautiful jig.
Good stuff.
Beautiful
good
jig.
stuff. Okay. While we're talking about jigs, guys, one of the first jigs of the year that we're going to use, because we're going to be dragging, is a football jig. And along that lines, we like a finesse football jig. So we're gonna we're going to keep that finesse theme. We're going to go to a 3/8 ounce, okay, which will cover a lot of your, shallower 15 feet and under work. We have a tied skirt. I'm sorry, it's a banded skirt. My bad. We have a banded skirt here. We have beautiful colors. This is the Dirty Jigs Finesse Football Perfection. Gamakatsu hook, guys.
Yeah, beautiful.
Gamakatsu hook. Okay.
That's a big deal right there.
That's a really big deal. 3/0 Gamakatsu hook. No, I'm sorry, 4/0 Gamakatsu hook. 60 degree. Here's the big deal. Can you see the eye of that hook, Nick? There you go. Flat, 60 degree. When you have a flat 60 degree eye, you can go through anything. And this jig will slither through rock, wood, a barbed wire fence if you come across one down there. And what I like about Dirty Jigs, they leave their weed guards long. I'm a big weed guard trimmer. I like to put that hook, like, I can't even do this backwards. I like to put that hook about right there on my finger. And then I like to cut all that off on that angle. So I'll come in. I'll cut about 3/4 of the way through. Then I come back here. I take these last long ones, and I back cut them just a little bit. I still want it to cover, the point plus. Then I split it, smash it out, and look how it fans that hook point.
I like doing that too, because when a fish grabs it, Nick, and they suck it in, it's not like a big old stick coming back in there and cracking off their top of their mouth. It's like crayfish legs or whatever, it's a little bit more spread out, so that it's more like crayfish legs.
We got a collar with a barb. See that? It's a lead barb collar with a barb keeper. So we're gonna hold that trailer in place real well. 9 times out of 10, we're gonna put some sort of a crawl trailer on here. In the cold water, I'm a max scent 3-inch chigger crawl guy, but to each their own.
Beautiful, beautiful jig.
Killer jig. I mean, we carry a huge assortment of Dirty Jig, but what this is a kind of a niche jig. It's a finesse jig, but it's set up for big fish.
One of the things, George, that I love that you do every time we talk jigs, you always show how you take the brush guard, trim the skirt, because anybody that is a true jig fisherman, you're gonna have to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to, it's gonna increase your hookup ratios. It's going to increase what your trailer can do,
100%,
and all the above. So, I mean, if you're out there and you never tried a jig before, don't be afraid if you purchase your first jigs here at the shop. Ask questions.
100%.
Plus with that jig, George, you could fish out on a layer line, 15 pounds fluoro or something like that.
Well, that's what I'm going to fish it on, guys. I'm going to fish this on a 15 fluoro. My favorite rod I throw this on is a 7.2 medium heavy. The one I use has an extra fast taper, 15 fluoro, 8-to-1 reel, and we have a guy on here asking, no good at catching the jig, catching them on the jig. Well, you don't overthink it. Prepping that jig with the trimming of the skirt and the trimming of the weed guard. Now, some weed guards are shorter when they come out of the pack. There's nothing to trim. But you notice on the specialty jigs, the more custom jigs, the more, less mass-produced, more specialized. A lot of those jig manufacturers leave that weed guard long, right?
Because not everybody wants to trim them the same.
And Yeah, some people want that a little longer.
Yeah.
You know, the way I finish this football jig out, again, I'm going to trim that skirt. I want a little more compact of a look. So I'm going to split that skirt out, right? So I got, you know, the skirt is put together, you know, with a band. Now the bottom of that skirt's pretty good because this band is not in the middle of the skirting, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top half of this skirt, right? And I just take that eye of that hook and I put it right there on my thumb. Got to go. All it does, it just gives you a little more spiky, a little more compact. I mean, are we going to have a big, deep argument on whether or not it makes a difference? No, we can. I'm like a dog with a bone with this stuff. Okay. This is like, I'm going into my 4th decade of hardcore jig fishing. This is how I fish a jig. Okay. I believe with every ounce and fiber of my being when it comes to jig fishing that these steps will help you, right? Catch more fish.
Yeah, for sure.
And when it's early season, you know, those pre-spawn, late winter pre-spawn largemouth that are on the breaks, dragging up football is deadly.
And George, with that, like the first jig you showed, we got the Ned rig behind it. What's your favorite trailers for that one?
Well, you know, it's early and it's really cold in the Northeast. You know, if I was in the Southeast right now, I'd probably be putting a crawl on, but up here, it's cold. Our water temperatures are just out of ice. We are having a stable weather pattern, which is going to make these fish bite, but I'm not so sure I wouldn't put a Ned rig on that to start. But if it, you know, if this kind of weather continues, I'm going to a crawl and I'm going to a max scent 3-inch chigger crawl. I get a little bit of flop. I don't know what it is about max scent. It's definitely an addictive substance for bass, and it's a game changer in cold water.
For sure. For sure.
So take a couple of these jig tips to heart. Now, we are talking about some specific jig types here. We are talking about some finesse. You know, we talk jigs just about every show to some extent. And sometimes, like tonight, we get a little more in-depth. It's fun. You know, it's a fun conversation. Everybody's in tackle prep mode now, except for the people in the Southeast that are actually fishing events or just fishing. We're getting ready to cut loose here ourselves. You know, and one of the things you got to do in the beginning of the year before you get serious is you got to get your jig box in order. You know, your jig box took a beating last year. If you're a big time jig fisherman, your jigs are, some of your well-worn jigs need some love, and, you know, you need to replace, you need to reload, and, you know, think about your jigs in the term of finesse and power. So, you know, I like a finesse set of jigs, and then I like a full standard size set of jigs. I like a finesse football jig, and I like a full standard 1/2 and 3/4 ounce football jig. Mm-hmm. And when the water's cold and the bite's a little tough, or the conditions are tough and the bite's a little tough, that finesse side of your package is a game changer. If you're on a good jig bite and you're working through an area that has a decent population of fish, you know, and you're kind of locked in, you can rework it with that finesse jig and get more bites. So there's a lot to the jig. It's a complicated subject, but that's what you need to know.
Yeah.
That's a dirty jig. It's $549. You know, it is a little more expensive, but it's a dirty jig. It's got just everything about it's perfect. It's got a 4.0 Gamakatsu hook, 60-degree flat eye, a bunch of colors.
Yep.
So that's kind of where we're at there, fellas. I like to trim skirts over top of a bucket. That stuff hangs around your boat carpet forever. Let's jump around a little bit here. Let's go to some jewelry. Let's get some showpieces out. Spring of the year in the bass world for a lot of us is Swimbait. Glides, soft plastics. You know, we got a couple months of big fish hunting with big baits on big rods. And one of the most famous reels in the game is the Tranks. Legendary reel.
Now became more legendary.
Made its bones in saltwater. Okay. I know in my personal experience, I've caught way more and bigger fish on this reel in saltwater than I have in freshwater. From stripers to amberjack to bluefish to fluke, you name it, big giant sea bass. I mean, this is a bad boy. Now, the 300, which is what you're looking at here, has received some love, some attention. This is the second generation, only the 300 size. The other sizes haven't changed. So your 300 is probably your best size in your Swimbait world. This is one of your better Swimbait reels made. And this reel got a complete makeover. First and foremost, it got the core solid body. Now we've taught you about this with the Phantom and the Metanium. We now have the one-piece frame. So we always say it's a one-piece frame. This is a one-piece frame and body. All of this is one piece. Core solid. So we take this little lever right here, which is part of the side plate. It's kind of like a bayonet. We just quarter turn it up. Kind of wiggle that a little bit. There's your spool bearing. This is your quote-unquote side plate. Big threads, very powerful.
That's a big key to that, George, is that it's not a plastic side plate that pressures, on the side. It's a side plate that's metal that goes in and screws onto the side and makes it essentially makes it into one piece, even in the side plate. So there's no flex at all on the side plate whatsoever.
Well, I mean, the frame there's no like traditional side plate here. This is all body and frame. And then think of this instead of a side plate, think of this as a bearing carrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it threads into the side of the reel.
You saw how it locks in. There's no movement. You could use this as a wheel chock on your boat trailer if you can't find a rock. Okay, you're good. You're good. 6. The old one had 6 pins, I want to say. So now we have 8 brake blocks. And these brake blocks work on a pivoting factor. I don't know how good we can see that, but when you spin the reel real fast, like you're casting, the centrifugal force will cause these to pivot. Okay? So they're going to go from here to here. And that little knuckle down in there is going to rub on that chamfer right there. That little piece of brass.
Yeah, it's a brass ring right there.
That can be adjusted from the outside.
Yep.
It's a little hard to do with it not on the reel, but if you look real close, it's hard. I don't know if I can turn it with it not on the reel.
What it does is it pushes that ring in and out with that adjustment on the side plate, and it catches more of the braking block or less of the braking block, and it's also tapered. It's got a taper to it, so it allows that thing to go in and out and add more braking.
What I would do is I would not fish all these brakes on. This is too much braking. So what I would do is I'd come in here. I have 8 brakes. I'd start with half on, half off. And to turn a brake off, you just pivot it up and lock it. Now it can't rotate. And I'd go around. And
Try to do it evenly too. Every other one.
I'd lock them all.
So it's even spread.
And then when I put my side plate back on,
the other nice thing about that side plate, it has a little O-ring on it, so it seals it all up nice. Makes it something.
These reels are sealed, and I'm not going to use the word sealed because nothing's sealed. These reels are really freaking tight to water. They actually have gone out of the way to prevent water intrusion, and then every bearing is anti-rust. Because believe it or not, more of these are used in saltwater than they are in freshwater. That's how strong of a reel they are. They're micro module gear now. Micro module gear, really fine teeth. So you got this is a aluminum drive gear out of a micro module reel. The teeth you can see are not real deep. There's a lot of them. So what happens is we get more meshing with the pin. We have more contact with the pinion, more surface, less wear, tighter, drive type of a feel. We have cross carbon drag. The 300, which is the 5/8 gear ratio, is 11.8 ounce mass weight, 22 pounds of drag. So you can
stop a truck with that.
You
Nick.
can lock her. You can lock her down.
You can stop a truck with that one.
You can lock her down. Lot of line capacity. So, for example, 17. This holds 150 yards of 17. Whereas your typical 200 size Corrado is like 90 yards. So quite a bit of line capacity. You can put that 20, 25 fluoro on here at 65, 80 braid, get plenty of line. There's also a 7/6-1. Now that's going to come with the power handle. Just so you know, when you buy the 7/6-1, you're getting the power handle. If you want the standard handle, you have to buy that extra. So if you're buying the 7/6, you're going from 31 inches of line per crank to 41 inches of line per crank. This is more for, situations where you're fast retrieving baits, burning baits. Or if you're a bottom fisherman, this is very popular with the saltwater crowd. Or the musky fisherman who wants a faster reel, for example, or the saltwater fisherman who's fishing inshore species, that are all about speed. So if you want to swim bait fish with this, that's great. But you're either going to have to use this power handle, which is not a problem, or buy the optional T handle. So that's an option. So price didn't change. You're still $299.99.
That's amazing that they kept the same price.
No price change. That body design is
the best.
The bomb. If you've ever fished a Bantam or a Metanium, you know what I'm talking about. You it's got the proper line capacity here. You got the proper drag. You got the best quality anti-rust bearing. Yeah, it's the B model. So it's a 300B as opposed to the 300A, which is on closeout. There's not many left, but they're on a pretty good closeout.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was exciting. That reel is very impressive to us.
Yeah.
All right. Is everybody having fun with this tackle talk? Because it seems to be going a little long. And I'm not going to lie to you. I got a couple more things I like to talk about. So chime in if you want to move on.
They love tackle talk. Everybody loves tackle talk.
If not, I'm going to hit you with my next toy from the toy chest. Speaking of swim baits.
Love me a swim bait.
Right? And we're coming up on the primo prime glide bait season. Can't wait. We are a clutch dealer here. And we now are stocking the Eco. So the Eco is kind of interesting. It's 6 1/4 inch, 1.5 ounce. So here's the here's kind of the standard. Not a huge difference in size. There's a weight difference. There's a bigger, there is a difference. There's a hook size difference. The Eco is featuring size 2s. But what's interesting with the Eco is a couple things. First of all, it's thinner. It's got that little smaller profile. It is a resin bait. Okay, so it has that real smooth gliding motion. You can also chop it. But the paint, you get some of the painted models like that blue fading to that purple. That's baked in.
Yeah, that's a big time feature.
That's baked in. That's not chipping. Okay. So you can take these painted baits and just freaking grind on them. Number 2 hook, $95. And yeah, 1.5 ounce, 6 1/4 inch. Just a perfect, if you're looking to step up your glide bait game, you're getting into it. You're like fishing some really good baits, but you want to get into the resin world without breaking the bank and with getting something that's dynamite.
Yeah.
Dynamite. Get one.
George, I can't wait to get my hands on them. But question for you guys is, some of your other ones you have, they're slow sinkers, fast sinkers, or do we know with these ones here?
This is a slow sink.
Slow sink.
So the beauty of the world of swim baits, between your factory baits, there's some dynamite ones of those, and your custom baits such as Clutch and Bullshed and companies like that. You can modify every aspect of these baits, and the easiest way to do that is to modify your sink rate. So if you're fishing in a situation where you feel that at that moment you're saying, man, I wish this bait sank faster. Well, it does. Reel it in, open up your drop shot box, get an 1/8 ounce free weight out, put it on the front split ring. Hey, your bait's sinking faster. If you want it to sink faster than that, I don't really have to repeat the story. Storm suspend strips, lead wire on the hooks, upsizing hooks. But the easiest way, my preferred method, I love putting a tungsten 1/8 ounce most of the time, free weight, a solid eye drop shot weight, a tie on. I love it.
Yeah.
Talk about it all the time. Do it all the time. I don't even have to really look for them because I have them laying all over the floor of the boats. They're handy that way.
Let's face it. A lot of the swim bait fishing is in that it's only got to be in 1 to 2 foot of water. Those fish are coming up after it. That they're attacking it. There's only a few instances where they really got to get it down. To a lot deeper depth. A swim bait has a tremendous drawing factor to it. So it draws the fish to it, and that's the idea behind swim bait fishing. You're drawing those fish to it because it's a big bait. It's a big drawing factor to it. So it doesn't have to get real deep, The weight for me would be windy days, when it's a little windy or the boat control's tough then, and you're bigger waves, that kind of stuff. You might have to add a little weight to keep it down just a little bit from blowing out, but yeah, great bait. I'm excited about that one too, Nick. I like it.
Now, every year when we go to ICAST, every single appointment all day long to break the ice. Hey, what's the most amazing thing you've seen here? And, it's usually like this guy's, top water, or this year for us, it was a hook, and it was this one. I've been waiting for so long to be able to show these to you. BKK weighted Permalock. I don't know if you can see that in that tungsten. That's a tungsten weight right there. That's a fluorocarbon keeper that's hand glued into every one of those weights. Now, we've been playing with this hook since last July. We've had one on this counter, rigged up in various worms, being jerked around by God knows how many people. But I just want to say, for example, with a Senko, with a finesse worm,
yeah.
But really, what can we all relate to? We can all relate to a Senko. What if we took this bait? Now, this is a 3.0, and in the package, you will get 4 hooks. You will get 2 and a 16th of an ounce, and you will get 2 and 3/32 of an ounce. You can also buy packages of these weights, and they're extremely easy to put on and off. So I can take a different weight and put it on. And then check this out. Tungsten. Now I have a Senko, which we can all relate to. And these babies do not pull out of here very easily. I mean, they are dug in.
That little piece of fluorocarbon's like angled back on an angle, Nick. So it does it. So when you're trying to pull it out, it's cutting back into it's cutting back into it like this way. You're trying to pull it that way, into the bait. It holds it well.
Now I got no bullet weight, 16th or a 3/32 ounce weight, or whatever I changed it to, on a high carbon steel, super slick. I mean, is this the frickin' bomb or what?
Yeah, wide gap style hook.
1.0 to 5.0. It'll work on any plastic you have, except probably it might be a little tricky with Z-Man.
Last Tech, yeah.
That's kind of tough. But, I mean, you could do it if you're a tenacious son of a gun. Look at that. My God. That's the BKK Armor Point Permalock weighted. 1.0 through 5.0. 2 different size weights in each pack. 4 hooks. They are expensive, but you know what? They're primo. They start at $7.99 and they go up from there depending on the weight. 2030 and 40 is $8.99. So they're not cheap. But guess what? They come in a little package. In case you have one of the OCD systems, you can just drop them right in there. Bad to the bone, man. Bad to the bone. Wrapping up tonight, guys, because this went long. My bad. Megabass, respect. Megabass, respect. Sheboygan Tiger. Matte black gold tiger pattern. Orange belly. Oh, son. 110. 110 plus 1. 110 Junior. Giant Dog X and Pop X. Yeah, boy. Look at that.
Pretty
Damn.
Bait. Oh, pretty bait. Pretty bait.
I had a lot tonight, fellas. I covered a lot of turf. You guys helped me. I thank you for that. But that's it. Until next week.
Yeah.
And next week, we got some beauties for you next week.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things we talked about last week, Nick, was that we had a rod that we were giving away at our sale.
Oh yeah.
We had a little special sale there, and we was a pop-up sale, and the people were they bought
For every seven reel,
yeah,
you got entered into the drawing.
entered into a drawing, and we were going to give away a rod and reel combo, which we have here tonight.
Yep.
And tonight we're going to give this thing away. This is the GXR Bass stick bait rod from St. Croix. And then you get a 7 spinning reel with it.
Yeah, that's a medium rod. That's perfect.
This is
7 foot
this
one.
is an all around do everything rod right here.
Mhm.
Perfect rod. You can finesse fish with it, throw a jerk bait with it. You can do anything you want with this thing. Top waters. It's just a nice little combo. I think they retail in the 179 range.
Yeah, 170 to 200 range.
Yeah, 170 to 200 range. That's a hell of a deal. So we're going to pull that real quick, and then we're going to get back to our topic for tonight, which thank everybody for joining Tackle Shop Live every Thursday night at 7 o'clock here. And we just did our tackle talk section, and then we're going to move into our technique section here in just a minute. But I want to give this away. We're real excited about it. We had a great turnout for the product and the sale, and we are going to draw a name. So Nick, this was your baby. We're going to get you to draw it. I'm going to toss them up here in the bucket. There went a beer cap out of there.
We got beer caps, jig skirt trimmings.
Yeah. So
and a pile of tickets.
Nick's digging in there, and he is all right. Got it in his hand. We got the winner. We got the winner in his hand, and the lucky winner, Nick. The lucky winner.
The lucky winner.
Hang on. Let me see if I can get the. I'm gonna take a guess at
Here
my
we
buttons. I'm at my buttons here.
This is no good.
Yeah. Let me take a guess here. Ready?
Yep.
Yeah, that's not it. Yeah. All right. We're going to get to that one. There you go, Nick.
Now we're cooking with Crisco.
All right. The winner
The winner.
of the GXR Bass Combo is Ray Cruz.
Ray Cruz.
Congratulations, Ray.
I think he's on here tonight.
I guarantee he's on.
I guarantee he's
Nice.
on here.
Oh,
Ray Cruz.
Good stuff, Ray.
Yeah. Way to go, Ray.
Way to go, Ray. There you go, Ray. We got you all.
Money.
We got you
Yeah,
all
there he
here.
is.
There he is.
There he
Wow,
is.
Ray Cruz. There you go, buddy. You're the winner of that combo. And we will get that. We'll have it here if you want to stop and pick it up, or whenever. It's going to be in the back. You can stop in here and pick it up. And congratulations to you, buddy. So, but
Wow.
anyway, George, at the beginning of the show, I was talking to everybody, and I was saying that we're going to break down Chatterbait trailers and how confusing and crazy it is about Chatterbait trailers. And I thought we could break it down, and you can explain all the different styles and stuff and what they do and for different situations.
I mean, it used to be a simple world.
Yeah, I know.
You bought a Chatterbait. It had a little twin tail, split tail grub body on it. You threw it in the water, you reeled it back, you caught fish left and right. It was insane. Okay, so why can't you still do that? You certainly can. But, fishing pressure, fish's conditioning, the baits, different prey sources, what they're feeding. We've learned a lot. And, when you can dial a bite in to the point where you make an adjustment and they start choking the bait and you catch them over and almost at will, something made a difference there.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I experienced that numerous times when we were learning the effectiveness of crawl trailers on chatterbaits in dirty water. It just went from short strikes and missed fish and the occasional fish to choking the trailer, emptying the boat of crawl trailers.
Yeah.
Like those you learn from those experiences. You know what I'm saying, Nick?
Absolutely. Like you said, it's become a complicated world, but the thing is, we got options, and that's a good thing.
We have a lot of options.
We have options.
Everybody likes to compartmentalize things and systemize things and say, well, when the water's below 48 degrees, we need to fish the boot foot trailer. And then if the water gets dirty, we have to put the crawfish trailer on. Don't quite work that way. So clues, I'm telling you, you need to pay attention to what's going on. Okay. Now today we watched a Bass Pro Tour on Conroe. Big time pre-spawn event. Okay. In Texas. The Chatterbait is probably one of the greatest ever pre-spawn baits ever made.
Yeah.
That you could ever throw.
No doubt.
You go to the famed fisheries of this world, the Gunnersvilles, the Potomac Rivers, they are chatterbaiting the living hell out of that spawning areas. And today was no different.
And getting bit.
And getting bit. And today was no different. And if you paid close attention, you will see that guys like Takahiro Omori, who was leading all day, they were throwing bigger than normal boot foots. Takahiro caught his first fish on a big boot foot. He goes, I knit. And, it was on. Nick LeBrun was throwing a boot foot. So what do we mean by that for our guests tonight that aren't familiar with our terminology? Simple boot foot chatterbait or trailer, swim bait. This is a little dipper. Okay. Now, what they're doing in Conroe, I have experienced in waters closer to home on a pre-spawn tidal water bite. They're catching a lot of their fish on pad stems. I did too. I took that same chatterbait. I went from that to that. And they went from eating it to choking it, sizing up. Whatever they were eating, which was probably perch, was bigger. And so, first of all, early season, and I'm going to try to categorize this. I just got done saying we like to pigeonhole things. Sorry. Don't kill the messenger here. I'm going to pigeonhole it. Early season, cold water, pre-spawn, into the early stages of the spawn. It's hard to beat a boot foot.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say that's the only thing to throw, okay? I said it's hard to beat a boot foot. So if you don't want to get yourself all crazy with all these crazy combinations, start with that. Now, George, how do I know when I have to make a change? Well, if you're missing fish to the point that you're getting a little bent out of shape and you've tried some different color combinations, you need to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, typically for me, and I don't want to speak for Mike, but him and I fish together so much, we're like, wired the same way. We're going to make that change and go to a crawl. Now, one thing I like to do with a crawl in that situation, it's kind of a 2-point change. Not only am I going to go to a crawl, okay, but I'm going to go to a more of a yo-yo presentation. Now, the crawl works great on a straight wind, but the crawl excels on a yo-yo presentation. Not that the boot foot doesn't, but this, if you have to make that change because you're getting short strikes, that crawl can really make a difference for you. There's a lot of great crawls. This is a turbo crawl from Z-Man. I really like it. But let's not overlook the Rage crawl. Let's not overlook
Zoom crawl.
Yeah, the super speed crawl, the speed ultra vibe speed crawl. Who's really taken a lot of attention here lately is Crush City with their cleanup crawl. Whatever. A crawl. In that boot foot, Reaction, Little Dipper, Skinny Dipper, Kitech, Fat Swing, and Regular Swing. There's a time to downsize. So the point I'm trying to make is, for those of you who are not have never really thought about the trailer, it turns out that the Chatterbait was made to carry trailers. A Chatterbait's all about the trailer. Mm-hmm. That's the secret. Now, there's 2 other types of trailers we have to talk about, guys.
Yeah.
Distinctly different. Okay? This is your main 2 players. Next, we have the fish. Now, I will grant you some of these terms are perhaps trademarked. Not everybody calls that a fish, but I'll be damned if that doesn't look like a fish. And that, my friends, is a Zako. Or Zako Jr. in this case, because it's on the little Chatterbait. Mm-hmm. Mike, I don't even know what they call it.
Mini-Max.
Mini-Max.
Yeah.
It's on the Mini-Max. Look at that sexy little thing. That little thumbnail blade. Or the regular Zako. Now, I will say this, and you guys please chime in, but during the spawn season, from what I would call late pre-spawn through the spawn and into the post-spawn in grass, that bad boy plays.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
That bad boy plays.
Well, you have the Zako, and then you have the one that really kind of took off too was that the Big Bite Baits fish. What do they call that thing? Kamikaze
swim on.
Swim on. That was a bad to the bone one too.
And everybody thinks the Zako's OG, but the OG is the Lake Fork Tackle.
Yeah.
Live Magic Shack.
Exactly.
Don't get your timeline wrong.
Yep.
Because you got to give.
And that thing still plays. It's got a little. And what not only is it the tails that you're and the way that they swim, but the bulkiness of it. You got the thicker bodies on some baits. You got thinner bodies on others, and you can mess with the bulk of the bait to really beef it up. But I think it does a lot of different things with that straight tail. You get a lot more movement, and therefore you want it you want that type of tail when the water's warmer.
Whoa,
you know
whoa. What type of tail?
That's the
fish.
The fish tail. You want that fish tail because you get a little bit more. Yeah, a little bit more action out of it. It's a little bit more lively. It's kind of
it's kind
of letting the bait move a little bit.
You're getting onto something now.
Yeah,
bro.
see, I like that too. I like that verbiage. More hunting.
Yeah, you get a little bit more hunting action out of it. But the
wait a minute.
But the water temperature is what's dictating. That over the boot foot.
Wait a minute.
With for colder water.
A minute. I believe that we accidentally, on purpose, accidentally got to the real root of the problem here, and that's the action that the trailer provides. Boot foot, right down the middle. Smaller boot foot, more hunting. Bigger boot foot, less hunting. Crawl, very little hunting. That's why it's so good in the yo-yo. Fish style, almost maximum hunting, if not maximum hunting. Now, you guys know I like my Z-Man.
Yeah.
I like to put a trailer on and fish with it for like a week. I'm just built that way. That is the Z-Man. Might as well call it the Z-Man Zaco.
Yeah.
But, let's not get so crude. It's the Chatter Shad. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a knock at anyone.
Yeah.
And there's tons of these out there. Chris Flay is referencing the Blade Minnow. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Classic. If you're a bait company worth your salt, you have these categories covered. Mm-hmm. Guys, we really got on the true meaning of these trailers, and that's remember, the Chatterbait was built to carry a trailer. Mm. It's not about the Chatterbait. It's about the trailer. And we're going from no hunting to mid-hunting to a lot of hunting. But now we got a new player in town. And for the last couple of years, the pointy tails. I call them shimmy tails. The shimmy tails are been playing. Freeloader. Deadly on a chatterbait. Deadly.
The one that's most popular was the missile, the missile bait.
Bro, it comes in 2 sizes.
Yeah.
The spunk shad comes in 3 sizes.
Spunk shad.
But the 4.5, bad to the bone. But stand by. The big baller. So this is another Z-Man bait, and they make a chatter spike too, by the way. They got to get it on the shimmies. Now they got the chatter spike. Now they got the big baller with the little ball in the end. This freaking thing takes that category to a new level. So your hunting is maxed out here.
Yeah.
And that's what we've learned.
Well, with the straight tail, that's exactly what you get. You get the really maximum amount of hunting with that bait coming through the water. You're getting the whole body of the bait, and the bait is just really allowing it to do what the chatterbait really does well, and that's hunt through the water, doesn't resist that.
They eat it.
And they do eat it. Again, it's more your warmer water stuff,
I will say that.
It's definitely more your warm water where it's a little bit more aggressive. And again,
we are pigeoling.
We are
trying not to.
Yeah, we are.
Remember, if forward facing has done nothing else, it's taught us that our old filing cabinet's not quite.
Well, it's not like we take all this stuff out of the boat, and we only run boot foots in cold weather. It's all in our boat. And if you don't think I'm going through my trailers in any given day to make sure that I'm not missing something, you're crazy.
Well, yeah, you're always adjusting color. Yeah. You're always adjusting action.
Yeah, honestly, we will absolutely go through every trailer and situation scenario on the water, especially in the spring, because these things are so deadly. And we if we're not getting bit, we're missing something.
And as we go through these techniques, is which I love so much about Tackle Shop Live, is there's certain techniques, cranking, jigging, chatterbaiting. It's not just a chatterbait. It's not just a jig. It's not just a crankbait. It is almost a lifestyle if you're a fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get in tune with these different techniques and everything about them.
Yeah. Yeah, you dial in, really. And that's what you're doing. You're dialing your day in. And these guys who are fishing today down in Conroe, they were dialing in the whole time. Now, whether they started dialing in practice, and then they kind of got started on that, and then they morphed into something else, and then they morphed into something else, and then all of a sudden they said, I'm going to put this big one on, and then boom, that's the one they locked in on, and started catching these fish, and the winners were throwing that, and that was the winning combination.
Well, what else is interesting too, as you travel to different lakes in different parts of the country, is you start to get to know that certain lakes, for some reason, like bigger trailers, and certain other lakes don't. They won't even look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get to know and do your research to put yourself in the right spots.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so do you need a little dipper and a skinny dipper? Absolutely. Do you need a chatter spike? Yeah, you do. Do you need a crawfish? Absolutely. Do
Diversify?
You got to have that diversification, because I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times George and I were out and we were fishing a chatterbait with a boot foot on, and just getting short strikes and then change to a crawl because of the clarity of the water or whatever it was that made us do that, and it changed the whole entire day. Vice versa, there was days where we were throwing a spike or whatever, and it was just the fish were off a little bit. It was too much movement. We moved to a boot foot, and it changed the game. So
the one that makes me interested the most that you went over, George, just because I don't have the confidence or used it as much, was the crawl. And you said when you use the crawl, you're doing more of a kind of yo-yo. And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's you need to master it. So I like to fish it both in grass, pad stems, pads, and just hardcover. And it's an easy technique, but you got to get your rod positioning right and your timing and your slack line control, because that bite's going to happen most likely on the fall. Now, the good thing is, you have some retention time there, and a lot of times you come up and you're like, okay, you don't always get that violent jig strike. And the thing about that yo-yo, again, the chatterbait was made to carry the trailer. The crawl on that situation right there is so good, and it seems to get even better in dirty water. Because you're getting more vibration. The hunting action isn't quite as important to begin with. It's like flipping. The reason we flip each and every clump of grass and we don't just cast in there and worm it back to the boat, you get bit on the drop. So the more drops you make, the more fish you catch.
Makes sense.
The more bites you get.
Yep.
If you cast a worm to a middle of a grass bed and worm it back to the boat, you're going to catch a few fish. If you flip every freaking clump of grass in there, you're going to catch tenfold.
Right.
It's
and that's just what that
yo-yo
is all about.
It's a little different than just like jigging your bait up. You're not just jigging it up and letting it fall right straight back down. If you really want to get good at yo-yoing, it's a controlled fall, and it's not even a straight fall. It's a controlled. I caught more fish yo-yoing the bait with a controlled fall, almost like pulling it up off the bottom, and then when it's falling, I'm still kind of trying to move it just to get that ding 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 on the way down. Otherwise, it just folds up and goes straight down to the bottom like a jig. And I'm not jigging. I'm not flipping. I'm yo-yoing. I'm picking it up and I'm controlling falling. And when it's falling, the bait still is
That's cool.
You know what I'm saying, Nick?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And don't get yo-yoing different, like where you just kind of lifting it up and letting it yo-yo down, lifting it up. You're controlling that fall, and you're you're still almost moving your rod tip a little bit to keep the kind of momentum in that bait,
Feel it.
a little bit of momentum just to keep that feel going, and you feel that blade ticking and clacking on the way down.
Plus you got those tails going.
And then you have the tails on the way down. So you get that tick, 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 and you got the tails working. It's that nice controlled fall.
It's good stuff.
Well, I want to
You will
throw you
absolutely
guys
get bit.
a curveball question though with these trailers. We talked about when you like to use them and which ones to use. What are some mistakes that you can make when you put a trailer on that you don't get the most benefit out of the trailer that you're using?
One of the biggest mistakes you can make is when you're downsizing. So when you're fishing a mini max or a stealth blade, you can put too big of a trailer on. These smaller blades, you don't get that proper retrieve out of these without the smaller. You need a smaller, more subtle trailer. You need a Zako Junior, works great. You need a swing impact, which is even skinnier and smaller than a Little Dipper. It comes alive. You know, you need the smaller, more narrow-bodied on, and that's a big mistake. People buy a Mini Max, they put a Little Dipper on it, and on a great day they catch fish, but the rest of the time they don't. And you'll see, you'll get a response. A lot of times it's when, you know, you're only fishing this when fish are on smaller bait. The other biggest mistake that I see is just like, this is what I do. I use this trailer on this chatterbait. You know, I use this color, and this is what I do. That is a huge mistake. You know, think of it in the terms of action first, color second. Now, let's look at a skinny dipper versus a little dipper. I had, and let's go back to that day I was telling you about. Had one of the greatest ever tidal water pre-spawn spawn days ever. That I'm probably never equal it again. And it had to do with upsizing the trailer. But you know what else had to happen? I had to upsize the weight. I had to go from a 3/8 to a half to carry that bigger trailer and get that same kind of wobble. So think about that aspect of it too. That's probably the two biggest mistakes I see in trailer selection versus chatterbait.
Yep. Now, somebody asked too about a rod. I mean, you know, we're not really going in all that, but you know, your regular chatterbait rod, I like a 7.2 medium heavy for my chatterbait fishing. It's just a rod that I really like, but 7.2, 7.3, some guys like 7.4s, but you know, even 7-footers, you know, depending on if you're around docks or whatever, but nice 7.2 medium heavy will get the job done real well for you. And that Mini Max, fellas, I don't even know if I want to let this out, but that Mini Max, it's not even like George said about the smaller bait fish. Yes, for sure. But when you're in a big pack, you know, and you're in an area and you're fishing these great big areas and there's a million guys in there and they've just been pounding it to death with chatterbaits, and you switch up to a little teeny tiny Mini Max like that, hold on. There's a reason they made that with that big hook in it. There's a reason for it, because that thing will flat out smoke 6-pounders when everybody else around you is throwing chatterbaits, and you put that thing on the right day, you will absolutely shock yourself. So that little 3-inch trailer on that little Mini Max on that little setup is just an absolute.
Well, and I'm glad you brought
Smash
that up,
fish.
because as soon as you said that, I went to one of your trivia questions, which was the lateral line.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, there's something to when everybody's throwing the same thing, the jackhammer or whatever. Hey, you give them something a little bit different, and it's a little more finessey. Maybe it vibrates different or whatever. But you were saying the Mini Max. I just cannot wait to get that tungsten Evo this year. I just love the way that feels.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that one.
So the trailers are doing the big time, big time makes that bait really what it is. And that's the big key, I think, that you need to walk away with, is that to understand the trailers and the tails and what they do to your bait. And that's why we wanted to do this show tonight is to kind of break it all down for you in all those different ones. And we can go on and on and on and on about a million trailers, and which we have a million of them in here, but you can
get all pumped up.
Oh man, every company has one. Every like George said, every company that's a company has a trailer. Boot foot. They have a spike tail. They have something. So
it's all about the trailer.
Yep, it's all about the trailer. It'll change your game. All right, got anything else, George?
Yeah, I do.
What we got, buddy?
I want to shout out a couple people. So
shout out.
Yeah, I do. I want to shout out a couple people. So I'm watching the Bassmaster Strike King College Tournament. Last week we talked about Bubba Cicero. This week I want to talk about a young man that we've got to know over the years here by the name of Trenton Carey. And he is fishing with, last year, him and his partner, Josh Kaufman, won the high school national championship on Hartwell.
Mm-hmm.
And Trenton got, a little bit of a scholarship deal, and he's going to a college down in South Carolina. I believe it's called Lander. And he's on their bass team, and he's fishing his college, I believe his debut college tournament with Bassmaster. And, him and his partner, Cody Abbott, third.
That's awesome.
4 pounds, 2 ounces from winning the tournament.
That's awesome.
And this kid is a natural stick.
Yeah.
His fishing buddy, Josh Kaufman, is a natural stick. And that's all they know. They just grew up in the industry, and we're so happy for Trenton. I also want to shout out another angler that grew up in our store here over the years. Him and his dad would come up and see us, fish with us over our guide service. And great angler, young man by the name of Brooks Parker. And Brooks Parker let me try that. Let's rewind the tape. Rewind the tape. Brooks Parker with his partner Briggs Alvarez, they finished in 13th in that tournament, 30 pounds, 4 ounces. So I would like to, our team here, our squad, we'd like to shout these young men out because we've seen them grow up.
Yep.
Over the years in the shop here.
It's really cool.
We'd also would like to shout out the people that mentored them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to go all in.
Yeah.
And mentor these young men into the fishermen. And, that just makes them, they're just better people.
Yeah.
They grow up in the competition. They learn the rules of the road, so to speak. It just makes you better people.
Hey.
I want to, shout out Trenton Carey. I want to shout out Brooks Parker. I want to shout out Brent Kaufman for all he did for Trenton and his son, Josh. And I want to shout out Brooks Parker's dad for, the never ending, just traveling around, fishing the tournaments, whatever it took. And congratulations, guys. Great job.
Absolutely.
Very proud of you.
Yeah. Good stuff,
George, because that's a lot of sacrifice.
It is.
It
is. I mean, these guys could have been fishing, doing their own thing. I know Brent, he was like, I'm doing the high school thing with the boys. And he wherever they went, he gave up his river fishing and his tournament fishing around the house and very admirable. And the lessons they learned. And Brooks's dad, same thing, he put all his fishing on hold and probably had the time of his life traveling around with his son.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Fantastic, guys.
Yep.
Great start to your year. Your friends here at SFT will be following. So let's step it up a bit there, fellas. Let's go.
Yeah. Also like to shout out for Nick and Nick. Thanks for the drawing You always make sure that happens every year. We appreciate you.
Oh, we got more to come.
Yeah, we appreciate
done
that.
yet.
Yeah, we got some more stuff coming for some drawings. So, make sure you guys keep your ears peeled and check that all out. Got anything else, Nick?
Nope. I'm just ready. I'm feeling this warmer weather. It gets you itching. And it's just a matter of time now.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys.
Looking good, fellas.
Appreciate you very much. Appreciate all you guys for stopping in tonight and every night, every Thursday with us.
So true.
Means a lot. And until next time, we'll catch you on the next Tackle Shop Live. Right there, you took my breath away. A young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me